Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tanner's Favorite Things. I am Tanner Knight, and today we have a conspicuous looking box here. It says Fender on the side. Spoiler alert, it does not contain a Fender product, so let's go ahead and see what's inside. Alright, we have a Peavey Studio Pro 50. This is a cool little amp. This is a 1x12 combo amp by Peavey, and this is a solid state amplifier. We'll get into the specifics a little bit more, but this is from the same era as this guy over here. This is a Peavey Encore 65, which is not the exact corollary, but you can definitely see some similarities here. The Peavey badge has gone missing, which is not entirely hard to believe in this case, but otherwise we have the silver drip edge on both of these models and similar knobs and layout. So what do we got? We have input 1 and 2. We have our gain, which you can pull this knob here, and then we have a saturation knob followed by a post gain knob. Next we have our EQ, looks like our 3-band bass middle treble, and again we have a pull for thick. Who likes it thick? Everyone. And then we have a master reverb right here. So sorry about getting there, we are. And then we have the Studio Pro 50 on off, made in USA. Pretty sweet little amp. This is a 1x12 as I mentioned. Let's go ahead and turn it around. All right, so let's just take a quick swipe at this back panel. We have a power amp in, a preamp out, a line out, unbalanced, just a 1/4 inch unbalanced line out to a cabinet. And then we do have a foot switch input right there. So you can have a foot switch for toggling through the channels. This is an Eminence built speaker, I'll bet. We'll have to take a closer look, but it looks pretty friggin' ragged. I think what we're going to do is hear this speaker in its entirety as is, and then we're going to swap it out for something a bit more beefy and see what this amp is capable of with more speaker power. Just for your reference, here's our Peavey badge. You can go ahead and pause on that if you want to take a look. Otherwise, we have very thick Tolex. This is from the 80s. It's when they had that really thick, kind of gnarly Tolex, and it's still in really good shape. The inside of the amp and the cab looks like it could use a small cleaning, but overall, not bad. Here's our close-up of our transformer. All right, let's plug a guitar into this bad boy and see what she sounds like. I don't think we will get to a full-on comparison of the Encore 65 in this video, but I do want to do a head-to-head between this amp and that amp. This isn't the exact corollary solid state to tube as I would like. I believe the Bandit 65 from this era really would be the apples to apples comparison, but whatever, we got a solid state 50 watt little combo that is from the same era, and hopefully we can make it sound pretty cool. Let's have a listen. All right, so here we are with two Peavey Silver Stripe single 12-inch speaker combo amps. I know that's a lot, but there's actually not quite much to it. We have one speaker in this amplifier, one speaker in this amplifier. We have 65 watts of tube-driven power over here. We have 50 watts of solid-state circuit transistor based power. And other than that, you know, these are very comparable amplifiers. I guess that's a lot of differences to point out, but we have the same exact style of Tolex, very similar, if not exact same style of corners. We have same style handle, same style of silver drip on the grill, and yeah, same style of knobs, although they do, nope, they're exactly the same style. We have the blue cap right here for post, and it's actually pre on the Bandit, or sorry, the Encore 60. I say Bandit because there is a Bandit 65 that's really more comparable to this. I mentioned it earlier, but we're gonna go with this Studio Pro 50 and do a little comparison here, just the same. And our speakers, slightly different. This one came with a Scorpion, and let me just pull that off the wall here. This is the original speaker that came with this Encore 65 amplifier. It's a pretty standard Peavey Scorpion, really nice cast speaker, and not the largest magnet, but it's a nice speaker that works in a lot of different types of situations. I happen to remove it in favor of an eminence speaker, and that happens to work out for this comparison just because this just so happens to be an Eminence made 12-inch speaker as well. It doesn't have very much branding, if any, on it, but from what I can tell, it is an Eminence built 12-inch speaker. This is a, what is this one called? This is the Patriot, and like I said, no branding on this one. So let's go ahead and plug into this amplifier and hear what it sounds like, and then we'll do a little side-by-side, just see what tube versus solid state actually sounds like in a kind of apples to apples comparison. Alright, I've chosen to play the guitar that I've acquired most recently. It is this LTD EC1000 Koa Top guitar. I just did a review on it last week. If you haven't checked that one out, go ahead and see that one in the link below. But here we have the EC1000 plugged through my pedal board into this Studio Pro 50. I've got everything turned down. And we do have one microphone on the cone of this speaker. It is a Sennheiser E906 dynamic microphone being fed directly into my Scarlett AT920 Focusrite interface. So that's what's going on here. Let's go ahead and turn some of these knobs and get some sound. Our very first one, well, first of all, our inputs are 1 and 2. So we have 2 inputs that you can theoretically play 2 guitars into at the same time. I don't know. But we're going to check both of them and see if there's any difference. But let's go ahead and start with our pre, and it says pull bright. So it does have a push-pull function. But this is fully pushed in right now. So that provides most of our gain. It doesn't provide anything right now till we get to that full gain, but let's just go ahead and put that up at 3, and now we have saturation. Does absolutely nothing without the post, which is this blue. That's 100% up right there. Pretty loud. It's still pretty clean. Got a little bit of breakup because our post is on 3. Let's see. If I turn that post all the way down, again, it kills everything. So pre, then post, then saturation. So here we go. Let's turn. Pretty thick. That's the bright, or sorry, that's the pre all the way up, and our post at 3. So that's a pretty chunky sound. Let's play a little happy medium, 5 and maybe 5. Okay, we're getting somewhere. That's a pretty usable clean tone. I think that, let's pull the bright here. I would say it gives it about a 10 decibel boost, but I wouldn't say it's any brighter. Okay, let's get our saturation involved here. We're at 5 and 5. Yeah, that's pretty loud, and the saturation thickens it up a bit. I wouldn't say that it adds any gain. Just kind of thickens it up. Let's try that saturation with the bright pulled. It doesn't do too much for me, quite honestly, so we'll leave it kind of in the middle. Let's go 5, 5, and 5. Maybe back it down a bit. Yeah, I like it back down. I'm not crazy about that saturation way up high, but obviously you can go anywhere in between. You can go down to 2 and up to 10 or whatever it is. Get a little more saturation in there. So there you go. Pretty basic standard controls on this Peavey amplifier. And let's go ahead and mess with the EQ now, all on 5. That low adds quite a bit of low end and a bit of gain, surprisingly. Nice. That's pretty noisy right there. I'll put our mids right at 5 as well. Yeah, I'm gonna back those mids out to 2. I think that scoop sound is gonna work better with this speaker and amplifier. But our treble, I think, is where we're really gonna get some sound. So let's. A little too much there, that's for sure. And our high, or whatever high EQ, has a thick. So let's go ahead and find a nice regular high. Oh, it was actually on the thick. So I push that back in. So interesting. That adds a bit more gain as well, that thick. It just adds more gain. Wouldn't say it's any louder, just a little gainier. Okay, our last dial is our reverb, and it actually says master above it, so that's kind of misleading. You might think that's a master volume and start cranking this, but it's actually a reverb if you look underneath. And that's real tank reverb. There is a reverb tank right here at the bottom. You can hear it kind of panging around in there. Looks like it's a little loose actually. But there is an actual reverb tank, just like in this amplifier, same exact reverb tank. And maybe around 3 is where I prefer that, if at all. Even that's a bit much for me. Let's dial that down to 2. So that's really usable sounds out of this amp. Very quiet. Solid state is known for being quiet, but they can have noise, so this is nice that this is a very quiet amp. And I think it's going to be a really good pedal platform as well. Let's go ahead and add some pedals. And well, first of all, there is a pedal that comes with this. It is just this Peavey little 2-switch deal, and this one actually did not come with this amplifier. I just happen to have a couple of these for this one and the Peavey 5150, so I have a couple of these lying around that we can use to test this AB function. But let's go ahead and just hit the 1 and see what the lead channel is. So nice, that just adds a little more gain to it. I'm not exactly sure what it's doing, but I kind of have a feeling it's doing the same thing as pushing this thick. So let's test that out. Yeah, it sounds like it's kind of engaging that thick switch in the circuit, and that's very similar sounding. And if you have it on with the thick pulled out simultaneously, it's just slightly gainier. So I think that's what's going on. The thick is the lead channel, and if you leave it in like that, it also might pull the switch on the bright too. So the Peavey amps are actually pretty sophisticated for their time and era, and they don't get a lot of credit for being as sophisticated just because, you know, they were cheaper. They were not the Fenders of the day or the Marshalls or even someone like Vox, which was more associated with the 60s, but still had a really good presence in the 80s. Peavey kind of dominated that market in the 70s and 80s because they could provide amplifiers with quality sound for really budget prices. And unfortunately, people still remember the budget prices instead of the quality. So you'll see a lot of people turn their nose up at Peavey, and to them, you know, to each their own, I say, but I think that there's a lot of gems to be found. This amp so far has been a really nice performer, but this is one of my favorite amps, period. And I'll talk about it when I get into this, but if we take a look at the back of this amplifier, let's do that real quick. We don't have much here, but we do have a preamp in, so I'm guessing what that is you can take the preamp of, say, the 5150 and put it into this amplifier and use that as the preamp instead. That's something that might be cool to try out in the future. We also have a preamp out, so I think you can use the preamp on this to go into a preamp in on a different amp and use this as the preamp. So a lot of versatility there. That's kind of cool. And finally, we just have a regular 1/4 inch unbalanced line out. So that goes to any cabinet that you could imagine. All of these cabinets are candidates to go with this specific amplifier. So we got a lot to try out here, just utilizing this as a preamp or utilizing a different preamp and this as a post gain stage amplifier. You know, the things you can do are endless. This is just our foot switch input, so that's pretty standard. But that's the back of this. Very simple, yet meant for rocking and rolling. And this Eminence speaker here, not too impressive, but it looks very similar to the one that's in here, the Patriot. So I think that's exactly what we're working with. We'll swap that out in another video. Again, we've got a lot to do here. This thing is way more versatile than people will give it credit for. So before we compare this to this, I want to hear a little more gain through this thing. We heard our lead channel on it, but let's put some pedals through it and see if this thing can make some cool sounds. Okay, let's start with a pretty gainy pedal, the Boss SD1, the Super Overdrive. This is one of my favorite pedals, the yellow Super Overdrive pedal, and it sounds like this. Nice. So I think it's lacking a little bit of low end. I tried to get it in there with that low, but it didn't tighten it up. It just expanded a little bit. So maybe the Super Overdrive, not the best pedal. I think it would work in a rhythm context because it isn't too bassy. You kind of want to take the bass out of a rhythm track in a lot of cases, and there you go. That would be a really nice crunchy rhythm that you can bump up the EQ in post as well. So it's not the end of the world. Let's go ahead and check out the MT2 Metal Zone pedal. So I think I like it a lot more up in the upper register. The lower, chunkier stuff, yeah, I think it would be good for a rhythm track as it won't muddy everything up. But really that high stuff sounded a lot better. Let's go ahead and hear that again. Yeah, it seems to be either one or the other, lead channel or pedal, or else it gets really noisy or muddy, so that's pretty expected. I don't love that sound as far as like a chuggy, chunking style sound, but it is really pronounced and clear and a little treblier than I would like. But let's go ahead and plug into this thing and kind of do a similar comparison and mess with these knobs. I have it pretty well dialed in to the settings that I like, but let's go ahead and switch amps. All right, this is a tube amp. I think they are 6L6 tubes in this amplifier, so really classic tube sound. It does have a solid state rectifier, I believe. That's one thing Peavey was known for, is kind of their hybrid use of solid state and tube technology. And this is one of those products that is really, really good. So this is the standard settings here, I think. Let me go ahead and grab the foot switch too, because we can also utilize the foot switch on this guy. All right, here we are in the clean channel of the Encore 65. Automatically this is brighter, and I like the sound a lot better in this, so I'm not terribly surprised by that. But an interesting comparison nonetheless. Let's go ahead. Also very, very quiet. There's no noise coming from this thing. That's something that's really valuable to me because most of my music making is done here in the studio, and the quieter the signal I can get, the better. So let's go ahead and just hear what this crunch channel sounds like on this amplifier. So our settings are, I bumped the pre down, it was really, really loud. The pre is about 3, our gain is way up there at 9, and our post is on 5. Pretty devastating for a single 12. Let's go ahead and hear that same Super Overdrive SD1 and just compare it head to head. Yeah, it actually sounds tinny on this one as well. I did not expect that. Maybe my settings are off here. I have the level on the Super Overdrive at around 4. I have the drive around 7, and then the tone is about at 8. So that's... That is, of course, the metal zone. That sounds a little bit better. Still, maybe it's these earplugs that are cutting out some of the lows, and maybe it sounds better on the recording. So we'll have to go ahead and consult that. But it does sound pretty similar, just moving back and forth. Obviously, I can't go side to side and have everything apples to apples without swapping things, but you get the idea. This is Peavey on Peavey Action, and let's go back to the Studio 50 just now that we have a bass line from this Encore 65. All right, I've gone ahead and switched guitars for the rest of this review. Number one, it's always good to hear another guitar in the mix, and this is in fact a PRS S2 McCarty 594. And number two, you know, I wanted to play an E standard instead of D standard, so I had to switch guitars instead of tuning all up. So I just went ahead and switched to this guitar. This PRS made in Maryland guitar is one of my favorite guitars, and I keep returning to it over and over again, even though I keep adding to the fleet. But either way, this is plugged directly into my pedal board again and through the Studio Pro 50. And I've gone ahead and recorded some small loops. First, we'll hear one in the clean channel, then we'll hear one with the tube screamer, and then we'll jump right to the metal zone and hear the metal zone in its full glory. So all guitar parts will be played with those three settings: nothing or just clean, tube screamer for the second, and then metal zone for the final loop. So let's go ahead and kick this off with the clean loop. So there you have it, the Peavey Studio Pro 50 1x12 combo amplifier. This is a really great amplifier, and I picked it up for about $100. And you know, it's old, it has maybe some scratchy pots, and I think the weak point of the amplifier is the speaker. And I was hoping to swap it out as part of this video and maybe change it to something a bit beefier like a Celestion V30 or maybe a Celestion G12 T75, something like that that I have lying around that I can easily throw in here. But we're going pretty long as is, so we'll have to save that for another video. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna spend some more time with this amplifier, but I wanted to primarily unbox it, number one, so we did that. And number two, compare it against my trusty old Peavey Encore 65, which I don't think I'll ever get rid of this thing. It's too good. It's a sleeper amp. No one knows about it, so it does not have a high dollar value on the open market, but as far as the quality and bang for your buck, it's there, and maybe someday the public will take note and it will become a favorite. But anyway, until then, we still have our solid state friend, the Studio Pro 50. So let me know if you have any experience with either of these amps, but especially this one. And if you have any questions or issues with yours, let me know and maybe we can kind of troubleshoot it together. So hopefully you like this content. I don't make any money doing this. This is just fun for me, and I love gear and I love creating videos. So if you feel free to like and subscribe, that would really help my channel grow, and maybe someday this will become my full-time gig and I'll be able to bring more good content like this to you. So thank you for listening and watching, and let me know if you have any experience or questions regarding these two amplifiers or these guitars, and we can have a discussion in the comments. So thanks again, hope to see you on the next one.